Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. In this episode, I'll be discussing Disney's 1998 animated classic, Mulan, their 36th such classic as directed by Barry Cook and Tony Bancroft and based on the Chinese legend of Hugh Mulan. Set in ancient imperial China, the film follows the title character, Mulan, as voiced by Ming-Na, where also Salonga provides Mulan's singing voice, as she struggles to find and accept her place in a world steeped in tradition and honour. However, things take a darker turn when China is invaded by the Huns, led by Shan Yu, as voiced by Miguel Ferrer, who breached the Great Wall, intent on overthrowing the kingdom. The Chinese Emperor, as voiced by Morita, orders the troops to be conscripted from all corners of the kingdom, with one man from each family to be drafted into the Imperial Army to fight for the country against the Huns. Mulan's father, Hsiao, as voiced by Soon-Tek, who is now quite frail, but once a very proud warrior, is the only male in the family, and as such, gets his call-up papers. Stubborn and filled with a sense of pride and duty, Hsiao is prepared to join the troops at the army encampment. Fearful of her father's life, Mulan takes it upon herself to pretend to be a man in order to join the army herself, in her father's place. Guided by the misadventured but ever-determined Mushu, as voiced by Eddie Murphy, Mulan shows just what she is made of as she courageously battles through the elements, the grueling training, the hazing, and indeed the fearful Huns, all while keeping a secret for which the penalty on discovery would be death and dishonour. Now, what an absolutely spellbindingly beautiful and thoughtful movie this is. From the very first opening sequence through to the very last scene, this movie is simply lovingly inspired and crafted with such attention to detail and affection. It is simply hard to avoid getting carried up in it all. An absolute masterpiece. Coming at the back end, if you like, of the so-called Disney Renaissance era, in which some of their finest movies were made. This movie doesn't quite reach the heights, if you like, of the likes of The Lion King, Aladdin, or of course Beauty and the Beast that were released during the peak of that era. But it is nonetheless a beautifully executed movie that has a captivating quality all of its own, and more than went to prove that Disney still had it in them to create something of wonder in a meaningful and most immersive way at that time. It's a powerful and emotive story that not only captures much of that Disney magic and charm with some splendidly animated characters, a number of brilliantly choreographed musical numbers, and some amazing character development, but also bringing a story which encapsulates love, honour, tradition and courage in one of the most effective and engaging ways possible. Mulan as a character is probably one of the strongest Disney had portrayed up to this point, displaying absolute courage in the face of adversity and a strong will to prove herself and others that we can pave our own way in life and not to have to be set by the template that is laid out for us. Admittedly, it is somewhat marred by the fact in the end that we do tag on a love story for Mulan with a platoon captain, if you like, Captain Li Shang, as voiced by B.D. Wong, which, whilst being cute and touching, of course, it was at Disney, was not really the point of Mulan doing her own thing. In the end, she may have been accepted for who she was, but she still had to have a husband. A little cynical of me, perhaps, especially given everything else the film delivers. But just a footnote, perhaps. For the most part, Disney brings their classic stamp and formula to an otherwise deep-rooted story, with as much comedy and warm emotional development as it has stark contrasts, themes on war, peril, and anguish. The scope of the movie is simply inspiring. From a personal level, as we travel with Mulan, feel her pain, her sadness, and her devotion. The frustration she feels at being a woman who's meant to be seen and not heard in this land, whose opinion and guidance are not respected, to the sweeping and intimidating onslaught of the Huns' attacks. The three main characters, Mulan, Mushu, and, not forgetting, Lucky Bug, have some amazing on-screen chemistry together. A mismatched ragtag band of misfits who have some brilliantly comedic approaches to the kind of situations that they're faced with. Murphy, he's on top form and really adds a flair to the role in a way only he ever could, which really does bounce off the more kind of solemn and serious undertones of the movie. And lastly, the score is absolutely inspired. Penned by none other than Jerry Goldsmith, who, if I've done my research right, and I did spend a little bit of time trying to dig this out, and do feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, always correct me, but I think this presents the only score that he did for a Disney motion picture. That might be a sweeping statement. It's at least I don't think he's ever done one for any of the movies in the classics range, at the very least. It's strong, ambitious, and utilises a number of themes, tones, and styles in order to encapsulate the on-screen magic. But then I am a fan. Tension, and prowess. I wouldn't perhaps say it was one of his best works. I'll leave that for some of the other ones that he's done. Poltergeist and Gremlins. Nor one of Disney's strongest scores. But I think it works exceptionally well against the tones, the styles, and the majesty of the movie itself. I think the same can probably be said of the songs used in the movie also, to be quite fair, with lyrics penned by Matthew Wilder and David Zippel. There are a couple of standout numbers, such as the instantly rousing crowd pleasers Reflection and I'll Make a Man Out of You, which come with some fantastically energetic and brilliantly set montages and visual sets. But the others don't feel like they have quite the same impact, but nonetheless are still simply wonderful all through. So overall, this is an absolutely beautifully presented entry into the Disney Classics range, bringing a fantastic ambience that has a very traditional and classic feel, whilst also being totally full of energy, scope and sentiment. An absolutely stunning and well-crafted movie that manages to be as wholly affectionate and emotive as it is entertaining, bringing to the screen what tantamounts to being a totally uplifting and indeed a truly captivating and engaging journey for all of those involved. The scale of the movie is epic, yet humbling, as we travel with Mulan through a very personal and bold adventure of discovery. Beautifully cinematic and totally enticing. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.